G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. We'll have all the show notes and any resources mentioned in the cast on our website. After treatment for breast cancer, got back to a toxic government job in 2013 and one day looked out the window and asked herself, I'm never ever going to get this minute back. What am I doing? After the shop, which specialises in offering bras and products for women after breast cancer surgery, was shutting down in January 2014, she decided to buy it aged 54. They have the widest range in Australia and only 10% of sales are currently online. There's no focus on it yet. Moved from an industrial location into the city in between two hospitals, even with rent doubling, propelled growth. Sales have doubled in 6 years and the team has grown from 1.8 FTE to 6, funded from an initial bank loan, then from profits. Felt she'd succeeded when she's been recognised as an expert in her field and being nominated for the Telstra Businesswoman of the Year award. Hardest thing about growing a small business is knowing when to let go. What Gillian would tell herself on day one of starting out is, strap yourself in, it's going to be a hell of a roller coaster ride. In episode 20, at age 24, Cameron talks about how he started an online 6-month professional boot camp for young people. Sales are now over $2 million per annum and the team has grown from 4 to 11. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Gillian Horton from Colleen's, based in Canberra, Australia. Thanks for your time this morning, Gillian.
It's my pleasure to be here and thank you for the invitation.
Well, that leads on to the first question, how we know each other. And Peter, our awesome podcast editor in Kenya there, reached out to yourself and asked you to come on the show. So thanks for accepting. So tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Sure. So I own Colleen's Lingerie and Swimwear, and I'm also the co-owner of Treat Me, Treasure Me. Treat Me, Treasure Me is an e-commerce site which offers gifts and practical ideas for those diagnosed with cancer. Colleen's Lingerie and Swimwear specializes in offering bras and products for women after breast cancer surgery. Mm-hmm. We also sell wigs and turbans for cancer treatment, but also for those who have alopecia or hair loss due to other medical conditions. And we also offer bra fittings for women, especially who can't find bras to fit, so such as ladies who have larger cups, women who have back and shoulder problems, and we do front opening bras. We help women with intellectual and physical disabilities, transgender women, and then women who've had surgeries, so whether that's reconstruction, mastectomy, or having a lump removed.
Yeah, it sounds like a very much needed niche in the market these days. Are there many specialist stores like yourself around Australia?
I'm actually a unique store in that I sell wigs and turbans. Mm-hmm. In terms of other stores, there are a couple in Queensland, and that's pretty much it. There are lots of lingerie stores who will offer bras for like mastectomy, like special pocketed bras. Yep. Certainly not enough by any means. So there's none like in Melbourne or even in, Tasmania, to my knowledge. So it's something that's definitely we need a lot more of.
And so sounds like you'd have the widest range in this area for this niche market in Australia. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
And out of interest, what kind of percentage sales-wise is online and in store? Like, are you finding a lot of online trade?
It has obviously increased these last few months. Yeah. I don't concentrate a great deal on online. It is there for existing customers, but obviously we sell a lot of swimwear online as well. Mm-hmm. So it's about 10%.
Yeah, right. Great. Well, tell us how the business started out.
So in 2008, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and I had just started working as a public servant in Canberra. We had just relocated and I didn't know anybody, and I did have an amazing support service.
Mm-hmm.
However, after going through the treatment and the subsequent struggles of coming to terms with like the chemotherapy, hormone treatments, early menopause, insomnia, etc., I went back, and I just found it an extremely difficult environment to work in. It was at times quite toxic.
Yeah.
And I remember one day in 2013 just looking out the window and thinking, I'm never ever going to get this minute back. What am I doing?
Yeah.
And I pretty much left and never went back.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was going to be doing. And I actually traveled overseas. So spent a couple of months overseas. And then when I came back, I found out that the shop that I went to buy my own mastectomy bras from, called Colleen's, she was retiring and selling the business.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd had the store after her own experience of breast cancer for probably over 15 years.
Yep.
And my first thought was, oh, you can't go. Where am I going to go and buy my bra from?
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, what about all the other women? What's going to happen to them?
Yep.
And so there was, in my mind, it was, that's what I need to be doing.
Yep.
And so I purchased Colleen's in January 2014 after Colleen retired.
Great. And did you say, 50 years she'd been running that, or 15?
No, 15.
15, yeah, right.
Yeah, so it was probably closer to 20.
Yeah.
But she had started it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty vicious disease, breast cancer. It's good to hear that you made it through. My mother actually passed away from that 15 years ago, but she had a very short battle with it. And obviously watching all that was quite eye-opening, and imagine what you would have gone through, especially the chemotherapy is pretty brutal from what I saw. Mm.
Yes, and I, like you, I lost my mum to breast cancer as well, and do have a bit of a history. And fortunately, treatments are a lot more targeted. And obviously things change. Surgeries are changing as well all the time for the better, and that's what's so good about the research.
Yeah, absolutely. In January 2014, in January 2014, you took over the business. So what age were you then when you took the reins?
Oh, that's a really good question. I must have been 54.
54, great.
Yep.
Do you have some key numbers you can share with the audience to illustrate the growth of the business over? And it started in the 80s, didn't it? 86, Colleen started it?
I don't actually know the actual date. That sounds crazy, but something I know it was
in the mid 80s.
No, it wouldn't be. No, 15. Oh yeah, 20 something years ago.
90s. 90s.
Oh,
yeah, mid 90s. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a bit dusty this morning, so.
Me too.
Oh, geez, not enough coffee. Yeah, so Colleen started late 90s. And yeah, if you've got any key numbers, you can illustrate the growth from there, and particularly in your chapter as well.
So since taking over, I would say, well, I know that our revenue has increased 100% and our customer base the same.
Great. That's wonderful growth in 6 years.
Yep.
And what about team members?
So I started off, it was probably around about 0.8 full-time, and now it's 5.
Great. And that 0.8, was that just you working 4 days a week effectively?
I was working 4 days a week, but I did have 2 other staff members. So we were open 4 days a week. So
right, so they were the 0.8. So
they were so not counting me.
Yeah.
Count me obviously, but yeah.
Yeah. So you've gone from 1.8 including yourself to now 6 including yourself.
Yes.
Yeah,
yep.
Great. Fantastic growth. Yeah.
Yep.
And when was the moment you felt like you'd succeeded?
So there were, I think, been a few. The first one was being recognized as an expert in my field. And so I was invited to write a chapter on bras after breast cancer surgery by a very prominent UK oncologist for his book, Keep Healthy After Cancer.
Great.
So I am a published author and an international published author, actually.
Good. So
that for me was to be recognized that wearing the right fitting bras after a diagnosis is actually helpful towards your own recovery as well.
Yeah.
And then also telling a swimwear designer that their mastectomy range was absolutely hideous.
Yeah.
And it stood out for all the wrong reasons. And she actually then contacted me and said, well, what do you mean? And so she asked for my advice, basically. And the result has just been phenomenal. So we actually have pocketed fashionable swimwear that looks the same as everybody else on the beach, which wasn't happening previously. And I continue to advise her on whatever it is that she's working on as well. So for me, again, just being recognized that the knowledge that I have can actually influence a design was just phenomenal for me. And then also I reviewed the Cancer Council resource on breast prosthesis and reconstruction. So something that, I do every single day is fit breast forms, and again, to be recognized. And then, as an entrepreneur, being nominated for the Telstra Business Women's Awards by a journalist who had interviewed me briefly for about 30 minutes. So that was really lovely to just have that recognition from somebody who, hadn't known me for very long.
Yeah, wonderful.
Well. Yeah,
the Telstra Business Awards, we've had a few people on that have been finalists or actually won their categories. And so it's a huge award here in Australia. Very competitive, very hard to get into, especially to become a finalist. So congratulations on that. It's a great achievement.
Yeah, thank you.
And what does success look like to you?
So women looking at themselves in the mirror after being fitted with their very first breast form after they've had a mastectomy and saying, I look like me again.
Yep.
Or it's women walking out of the fitting room with huge smiles on their faces and saying, oh, I feel fabulous. I never knew that the girls were supposed to sit this high. And we get that a lot. Yeah. And then customers literally coming in and saying, my friend told me I just had to come to Colleen's.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's a great endorsement, isn't it? Mm.
Yes, yeah.
And number one thing you'd recommend in marketing a fast-growing business?
Know your customers. So, what's their pain point? What is it that you're trying to alleviate? How do they shop? But more than that, you offer exceptional customer service so that your customers are your marketing.
Yes.
They're your referrals. And for us, that's where we get our business is from referrals.
Yeah, word of mouth's your biggest lead generator.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. We don't, I do some paid advertising through a local magazine, weekly magazine, and that's always been very, very successful as well. But I don't do any other, ran a television advert, but I don't usually do any other kind of paid.
Yeah. I think a lot of owners miss that just how important looking after your customers is from a marketing point of view. Ben Crowley from Bulk Nutrients, who interviewed, I think it was episode 10, he threw in an extra customer service person into that team, even though the industry average, was one less, because he's such a big believer in just having a wow experience from the customers, for the customers. And that has reaped a lot of benefits for them. And as has been pointed out in the cast before, it's so much cheaper to market to your existing customer base, but also to get referrals out of them than it is to put up ads and go chase new, fresh customers that have no history or trust with you.
Yeah, and we also, the women that obviously come to us initially are those diagnosed with breast cancer. And so for us, the experience that they have in understanding what it is that from a practical point of view that they need. Yep. So that they come obviously from our surgeons and from our breast care nurses. Yeah. But it's more the customers who come in looking for bra fitting or who've come looking for swimwear, and then they obviously go and tell their family and their friends.
Out of interest, have you looked at any of the more the newer methods of marketing and advertising, like Facebook ads and Google ads?
So we use Facebook and Insta, but I've never done a paid advert through them. No.
We're finding Facebook ads very, very effective and affordable, great return, very targeted because they've all got all that data on people. So it might be something you might want to look at. Mm.
Yeah, because you hear different stories and, because it changes, it's finding, obviously, again, the right person who's going to be able to do that for me, because I certainly wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, me too. Let's talk about funding. How did you fund the growth of your business?
So it was an initial bank loan and our own capital initially. And that's all that, like the finance that's been used, the rest has come from the revenue. So shop fittings, et cetera, has all come from our revenue.
Great. That's fantastic. And it's, after 6 years now, the bank loan, you've paid that out or you've kept that?
Almost. It's almost finished. Yes.
Yeah, great.
Yep. Which is great.
Awesome. And if you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Absolutely. We need more stores like mine. We absolutely do. And I get asked very regularly from women who do visit us from interstate, why don't you open a shop in Melbourne? Why don't you open a shop in Adelaide? And
have you considered that?
I have in the past.
Yeah.
And for various reasons, it hasn't, come to fruition. Yeah. And it's kind of, I think, being a bit more creative. If it's not me, how can I help somebody else do it?
What about franchising? Have you considered that?
I have.
Yeah.
So I have. And again, it's kind of sitting there bubbling away, and we'll just, I guess, wait and see what happens. But at the moment, Canberra, the store, is keeping me very busy. Yeah,
right. Well, I definitely encourage Tina Towers' cast just went live recently. She was Australia's youngest female franchisor. Age 20, started a business, 27, decided to franchise it, got it up to 35 franchisees, and then age 33 sold out, exhausted. So she has a mixed opinion on franchising. I think she'd be great for you to speak with. I'll email you both after that.
Oh, thank you. I did see, yes, she's on the list of the podcasts. I'm getting through your podcasts, yes.
Have a listen to her. And there's another one coming up soon that I recorded last week, Daphne in Adelaide, South Australia. She owns a paint store chain. So in 2011, her and her husband divorced. They bought the business in 1996 with 3 stores. And in 2011, she basically said, fuck it, I'm going to grow this thing. Now the divorce is through, and piled on more of her own stores, but also started franchising. She's now up to 24 stores, half of which are franchised. Yeah. And she's a grandmother of 8, real go-getter. So I think she'd be also another good one to speak with. She's had quite a positive experience around franchising. So I'll email you and Tina and Daph after this.
Oh, thank you. That would be really interesting.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey?
So I think it was making the decision of whether to stay in the location when I took over Colleen. So it was a destination store. So by that, I mean that you only knew about Colleen's if you were diagnosed with breast cancer.
Right.
So it was situated in a light industrial area between the dentist and, the electrician. And it had blinds on the window, and it needed obviously updating. And I had to make the decision whether I was going to stay or go, basically. Mm-hmm. And when I was going through my treatment and subsequently went shopping for bras, I would go into lingerie stores and I'd look at all the bras that I used to be able to wear and couldn't. And then I'd go and say, do you have bras for me? And there would be the 2 most ugliest bras sitting in the corner of a room someplace, out of sight of everything else. And I'd quite often just leave the stores in tears thinking, this is something I can't change at the moment.
Yep.
So my vision was always to have a lingerie store where I could go shopping and other women could go shopping like they did before. Yep. And so this was going to give me the opportunity to do that. So I found a lease, and it was in a row of shops between the private and the public hospitals. And so decided to make the big decision to move. So the rent was just double what I was currently paying. So there was a lot of things to consider. And I knew that if I broke even, it would be okay at the new store. But then there was, the shop fittings, we were still writing handwritten receipts. So we had to find a point of sale integrated with obviously our website. So we'd had a website, we'd had that since 2015. But it didn't integrate with the point of sale. So there was a lot of things to consider. I was going to open longer hours, so I needed staff. And
it's a lot of change, Gillian.
It was a lot. And my husband is fantastic with the technology side, so he took over all of that as well. And we were still trading, so we had to trade, and then literally over one weekend, move everything into the new location. And looking back, it all went well. We opened when we said we were going to open.
Right.
And, and that month actually, which was October, it was our biggest month ever in terms of sales.
Wow, fantastic.
And part of that too was we're actually situated now between a bakery, so it's a very famous bakery in Canberra, and also an independent IGA and another row of shops. And there's a big medical center which has just been increasing, and so we started getting foot traffic, which we never had before.
It's amazing in bricks and mortar retail just how important location is, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I thought it was a good location, but I didn't actually realize how great a location it was, because it is closer to the hospitals. But a lot of people actually, if their loved ones are in having hospital procedures, they come out for a walk. Yeah. And then they discover, and they've got nothing else to do but shop sometimes. And so they discover us. So there's a lot more foot traffic, which I would never ever have had I stayed in the location that I stayed in. So location is obviously, and parking. So a lot of my customers are elderly. And so parking is a huge thing to consider, so that they could get as close to the store as possible. Yeah. So definitely the location has ended up being an absolutely perfect location.
Yeah. But still, staring at those numbers in a spreadsheet is very different to the reality, because you're still putting down a lot of assumptions, that massive jump in rent, and you don't know the other side of the coin if you are going to get enough feet through the door to cover, that extra overhead. It's still scary.
Oh, it was scary, but you do your numbers. You say, well, this is a calculated risk. As I said, I knew that I was going to be, if I kept the current sales, I was going to break even. So I thought, well, I'm not, that's the worst case scenario. Obviously, if I was going to make less, then obviously I was going to have to make some other decisions. But that has certainly not been the case.
And any suggestions or things you do differently after going through that stress? There's a massive amount of change you've just described there.
Oh, I think obviously being organised, knowing, as you said, absolutely knowing your numbers, flexibility when things had to change, you had to make quick decisions, and trusting the experts, so that, those that were going to advise me on shop fittings, who are going to advise me on technology, who are going to advise me, just say, yep, let them go, they're the experts, and not for me to take over or ask too many questions, because I certainly didn't have the time to be doing that. And it was an exciting time, though. So it was a good stress. Yes. It was sometimes overwhelming, but I knew that the end result, it was going to be worth going through what it was that we were, going through. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. And what area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
So I thought that I knew my customer. After all, I was my customer. Mm-hmm. And then I had more and more women would come into the store. So I had succeeded in having a store which looks like a normal store. Other than the logo, which is on the window, which is for bosoms, great and small, uneven, or none at all. Ladies.
That's a great strapline. I like it. Tagline.
So I had ladies who would come in and say, oh, you have bras for me because I'm the none at all. But that's the only indication on the window, that it's for breast cancer.
Yep.
So I'd have lots of other women coming in and they'd actually say, oh, do you fit normal women? Which again, for me was indication that I'd actually succeeded in my vision.
Yes.
But then I'd get lots of women coming in and they were quite distressed about not being able to find bras to fit. And I resisted making any changes. I didn't want to water down my vision. I didn't want to think that I hadn't held true to my own vision.
Yep.
And so I had to work on my own resistance. The area I needed to work on the most was actually my own resistance.
Right.
So what was I afraid of? Why didn't I want to make the changes? What would it mean to women if I did make those changes? And so I just had to work on myself.
Yep.
It was much more a mental barrier.
Mm-hmm.
And took a little bit of time.
Yep.
Probably took, I'm going to say certainly maybe 18 months.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going to Sydney, contacted a store owner there who actually specialized in larger cups, and spent a week with her,
Yep.
talking to her. And that was the best thing I did, just to open my eyes and realize the difference that a bra fitting makes to every woman, but especially women who really suffer from back and neck and shoulder problems, etc. too.
Yep. Great. And what have you enjoyed least about managing the fast growth?
I think it's not having the time to either train others or for me to write up procedures, and everything happening all at once and trying to figure out which is the next step. How am I going to do this? What systems do I need? Trying to communicate my ideas and thoughts quickly with team members, or trying to write it down, but not having the time to write it down. And realizing too that the team, that I employed, which would have been probably now 6 years ago, don't necessarily have the skills that I need now.
Yep, got it.
And it's overwhelming at times, because I just keep doing what I've been doing all the time because it's quicker, and rather than stopping and thinking, how do I need,
I love that Einstein quote, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Two things on that. Have you read The E-Myth?
Read The E-Myth. I'm trying to think.
I'll send you a link after this, but Luke Chant, who I interviewed recently, actually his cast went live yesterday. He's in Melbourne. His business is called Hotwire, and they sell heated flooring and towel rails. But he gave me a great tip, which I had never thought of. But in our operations manuals for the businesses that I work with, we're now going to adopt his idea, which is basically videos of how to do certain things. So I don't know if that's something that would work.
Oh, yes. No, actually, somebody did talk to me about that, and I have started doing it occasionally.
Great.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. No. And then to do the videos and then get somebody else to write them up.
Yeah, exactly. Luke's got a Chrome add-on that he's going to run me through soon on how to use it. Record the video so it records your screen and you can talk to it, etc. Yeah, or even obviously for the bra fittings, you probably want to have an actual video of the bra fitting. Yeah. And what do you love most about growing a small business?
Is being able to make a decision and then action it.
Yep.
I don't have to ask anybody else to actually give me the go ahead. Sure, I might ask for, advice, and I might ask, but the fact is I can make that decision. And I have learned that it is just a decision. It's not a good decision. It's not a bad decision.
Yep.
It's just a decision. And I can change that at any time. And there was a point that I did have a bit of decision fatigue.
Yep.
So, when you decide, no, I'm not going to do it. And I did learn about that actually listening to a podcast, that once you've made the decision, I can change it. It's just like anything. It's not I've made a bad decision or I've made a good decision. And so seeing my ideas come to fruition is what I absolutely love about being, an entrepreneur.
Yeah, me too. What's been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
it's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's about me serving others.
Yeah.
So if I genuinely come from a place of service, then it really doesn't matter what others think.
Yeah.
And for me, that has been a huge mindset shift about, taking the fear out of what if I do this, what if I don't do this?
Yeah.
And again, working on my own limits,
yes.
working on my own beliefs, working on just thinking what else I was going to say.
That's all right.
Of saying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Or, saying the wrong thing, of doing the wrong thing. And I know that I was very, very sensitive, especially doing what I do, that fine line in some respects of, selling. And when you're obviously dealing with very emotional women.
Yeah.
And it's just led me to now be vulnerable on social media, like to actually, it doesn't matter what other people think. It really matters that I want to serve others and do it in such a way that makes a difference.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And what's the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Know your customer, know your customer, know your customer.
That's 3.
That was 3, but it's like...
It's very, very true. Absolutely.
And customers change.
Yeah.
Or their needs change, as I've found out that, what I thought, and you just have to keep revisiting, who is my customer? Am I alleviating their pain point? Can I do things better? And obviously talking to your customers and asking them, how am I doing? What can I do better?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Find it hard to define a clear strategy, then communicate it and execute it alongside the rest of your team? Or you currently don't work a simple quarterly strategic plan to boost your team's performance? Our Business Growth Formula online course is perfect for small business owners with 5 to 30 team members wanting to grow. We share the mindsets, habits and tools to be a legendary leader in your business. growasmallbusiness.com. And can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes and advice for those listening?
So when I took over Colleen's, I inherited... Actually, she's Colleen's sister. Mm-hmm. So she'd been in the business for a couple of years and she was fantastic in obviously keeping me on track because I didn't know anything really about bra fitting when I took over. And I also employed a friend initially. And then when I was moving, I obviously needed to hire more staff. And it was actually customers that approached me and asked whether they could come and work for me. And so that's what I did, give them a job. And I didn't really think, obviously, about future needs. So I can train now people to be a bra fitter. I can't train them in skills that I don't have. So especially maybe on the technology side of things. Mm-hmm. So it was great to have very empathetic staff and staff that obviously could do the bra fitting, but not even the systems and procedures, and perhaps I had not quite the right expectation. And then it has been, since then, customers who've actually approached me. I did advertise just recently, actually, and that was actually just through Facebook. Mm-hmm. And I have a new staff member onboarding, and she has obviously different skills, and I've realized that I need to be looking at not just my immediate needs, but obviously needs of the business, perhaps, further down the track too, as well. And trying to work out, does having a bra fitter and then somebody who's going to upload products, should that be the one and the same person? And in the past, you think, well, yes, that's all I can afford. Which one is the most necessary? Which one can I do and which one can somebody else do? Yeah. So staffing's, for me, it's always been, and it still is, I think it will always be an ongoing, what kind of skills is it that the business is needing now and what's going to be needed into the future. Yeah.
And anything you do differently or you do differently now from when you first started 6 years ago when it comes to adding people to the team, any advice for those listening?
carefully thinking what it is the business needs,
Yeah.
which is what I didn't do. I actually found another staff member from a lingerie store that it was closing down, and she comes with over 20 years experience, which is very, very unusual now to find somebody in the lingerie who's had lingerie experience. And not only that, she was actually a bra fitter trainer as well. So she has come on board, which complements my skills in terms of her knowledge of different types of bras. But again, it's what other skills do I need?
Yeah.
And how do I fit that into the business? Do I need them physically in store? And I think obviously with COVID, I do now have a virtual assistant.
Yep.
Who's actually my daughter in Sydney.
Oh, right. Okay.
And and again, she's actually getting me organized, and she actually handled the latest recruitment process for me, which was fantastic. And I was thinking I should have done this sooner.
Yeah.
And I think it's not to be afraid to hire, because it really does free up my time to do other things as well, but to actually carefully consider what it is the business actually needs.
Yeah.
And what is the best way to, how to have that person, where to have that person. And now they don't necessarily have to be physically, obviously, in the same room or even in the same country.
Well, COVID's really shown that. I've got 3 or 4 years now. I've had 2 great team members in the Philippines, and Peter's based in Kenya, our editor.
Yeah,
it's all about the right person, but not necessarily the geography for most roles. Obviously, retail, bricks and mortar is different, but yeah.
And I think that is, isn't it? It's the right person. And then finding out, how do you then manage, I guess, staff if they don't have the right skills? Do you then let them go?
Yep.
Or how do you, train them, or do they want to be trained?
I think it's one of the most under-resourced areas in small business particularly, is how to train, firstly yourself, but other managers to be better managers. And that's one of the reasons why I'm launching some courses later this year to help small business owners on that mid-tier, not just the strategy and the lower tier of execution and doing, but in the middle of being, becoming better managers. It's difficult because people are hard. I believe they're the hardest thing in small business, but also where the value's at. So, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, your team is your greatest asset.
I'll quote Jim Collins on that. People aren't your greatest asset. The right people are. He talks about get the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and as importantly, the right people in the right seats. It's a quote from one of my favourite books, Built to Last. It's a brilliant book. What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth? Obviously, for the team to have the same vision. But for me, family comes first. So for my team, they've got children, whatever it is that they need, that's obviously very much their needs for their families definitely come first. Recognizing too that, the work that we do is very emotional and obviously has an impact on us. Especially when women are sharing perhaps not such good news. Yes. So just recognizing debriefing. So in some days that we'll have a debriefing time together, or when just saying, don't come in tomorrow. It's been, this week's been really tough for whatever reason, and just recognizing their needs, obviously mental health needs as well. Yep.
And as I said, being on the same page is absolutely important. I know that every single one of my team love what they do and can see the difference that they're making. We do go out socially. I ask for input all the time. I sometimes really want them to make the decisions. Here
you go. Here's the keys. I'm going on holiday for a month. You can
actually, I have to pretty much. But valuing, obviously, every single person contributes value to the team. Absolutely, no doubt about it. And then as part of even just the store, I'll have ladies coming in especially during this COVID time, and who can't see their mums, or they can only see the mums for half an hour, but mum needs a new bra, and I can't go and fit at the moment under those conditions. And so I'll just give them 3 bras and say, hey, take these to mum, come back and see me, and, you know, try and work out, you know, obviously what mum feels comfortable in. And so I'll just give them 3 bras, different sizes, off you go, and then just bring it back. And so it just saves the stress of, oh, well, I have to buy these, I have to bring them back, I have to do this. And I'll say, no, just what's really important. And then, you know, my customers live in regional New South Wales, they live in regional Australia. A lot of them don't have internet, so they'll phone us. So I travel to Dubbo, take my services as far away as that, which is about 5 hours from Canberra, and I travel around the regions. And so ladies will call and say, can I have the same bras as I had last time? But I might have changed, you know, changed weight. And so we'll send again 2 or 3 bras and say, well, you choose. And so then they'll try them, and then they'll send the bras back that didn't fit and put a check with them.
That's great. Yeah.
Because otherwise they don't have credit cards necessarily either. A lot of them don't, and they don't have access. So that's how we, I guess, create in terms of the atmosphere or the business.
Tell our audience how you've handled balance in the past.
So in the past, sometimes badly. And, you know, I learned a lot of skills going through treatment and even the aftermath, and trying to come to terms of it all in terms of meditation and the benefits of eating well and the benefits of exercise. And that would go out of the window when, you know, you're trying to relocate and do all that kind of stuff. And then again, I think COVID has brought me back to slowing down. So, you know, I love walking. I love being in nature. I love traveling. But obviously at the moment that's a bit tricky. So having staycations, trying to really step away from the business and not communicating. So now the team won't contact me, which in the past I would get, you know, contacted and be quite happy to do so. So I, you know, booked in massage once a month to make sure that I go, trying to do more, obviously, walking, exercise. But when you're doing something that you love, it is really hard to switch off, because you don't realize that that you're still working.
I know, totally.
Even though you love what you're doing.
Exactly. It's a double-edged sword, as I've spoken many times on the cast, and it's a risk, and it's something I'm going to have to work on for the rest of my life, because it's great that we love. I can't remember who said it, but you pick a job that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And it's true, but there's also the downside is sometimes you can't fucking switch off. And I had a real problem with that in the first 10 years, I guess, my 20 years in business, but I've got structures and mechanisms and things in place, such as hobbies and good network of friends to go and have beers with and dinners, and my chocolate Labrador Carlton supporter. We go bushwalking nearly every day, which is great. And obviously Maggie, my 7-year-old daughter, who you met a minute.
And I think, you know, every time I do take a break, I get so much clarity. I journal a lot too. So any ideas and things, one of the little tools that somebody mentioned to me was Otter, which records, and then obviously it types it. So that if I've got an idea at 3:00 in the morning, I reach for my phone and just that's it. That's it. And then it's out of my mind. And then usually, you know, even with my accent, it will pick up, and I can understand what it is that I've done, or what I wanted to remember. So, and it's the clarity. So every time I go on holiday, or I'm in the bush, or, you know, you're just sitting journaling, I just come up with the ideas, or things just change. And so it's really important to have that balance, even just to keep the business moving forward.
Yeah, totally agree. How much professional development did you invest in yourself? Books, podcasts, courses, training, conferences and events?
So obviously in the lingerie industry in Australia, sadly, there's not really that much. So I've actually been to New York and Paris to the lingerie expos. And that's mainly to make sure that I am bringing the best of the best to my customers. And if there's anything that I need to know about, that really obviously helps to see what the trends are in the lingerie industry as well. I traveled to Germany. So just before I was in the process of purchasing the business, and we were traveling to France, and we did a small detour to Germany. And my husband and I visited the factory where they make breast forms, and just to see the engineering and talk to the CEO, and they also make bras as well. Listen to lots of podcasts because I travel in the car a lot. I just love my podcasts, and I've had some really major breakthroughs about my own mindsets, which we spoke about earlier as well. I went on a business retreat called Nurture Her, and that was 3 or 4 days in Fiji. Wow. And that was a year ago, actually, the best ever retreat in terms of meeting like-minded female entrepreneurs, but the caliber of the speakers, and it really has changed even just how I see my business and how I saw myself too. It was just absolutely phenomenal, and I'm so disappointed that we're not able to go again in October. It will be back, and also I've just actually been appointed to the inaugural Consumer Cancer Reference Group here in Canberra.
Great.
Which means that we get to advise on a new wellbeing centre. So just being able to talk to, there's about 12 members, and listen to their own cancer journeys, and obviously, that's really, really very exciting. So for me to certainly broaden my horizons in terms of other people who've had similar experiences, but obviously they're going to be different. And then during COVID, I've actually been listening to webinars coming out of the US, and so these are retailers who obviously have been in serious lockdown and how they have managed. And so it's been really interesting to see how much I actually, what they have done, but also the similarities. And so I felt a real connection to these women who, are going through obviously much stricter lockdown and restrictions than me. But also just how they've pivoted, what they've been doing, their energy, their vibe. And that really, for me, has been really inspiring.
And on that, have you had mentors or coaches along the way? You could tell us about that experience and the value they've added.
Yeah, so I've had paid coaches. I've been in a Facebook group coaching, and I actually am part of a mastermind group, which is with 4 other entrepreneurs. We meet once every probably 3 months, and that's much more of a sounding board, and just we do have a training on different topics as well, and it's a weekend. We decided that was the best way, so we do take time out of the business. And different successes I love the mastermind group, actually the group coaching, which was also business but personal growth as well, and they were actually ladies in Canada. So that has been really very, very helpful. And the paid coach, we did 3 or 4 months, and he was the one who then said to me, "Gillian, are you getting any value from this?" And I actually said, "No, I don't think so." And I think it was much about not being the right fit. But I'd highly recommend a coach.
Getting the right one.
And again, it's getting the one that's going to be the right fit for you and moving your business forward.
And do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No, it's just me.
All right, Gillian, we're on to the final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Knowing when to let go. So whether that's control, whether that's the tasks, that I've been doing, whether it's things that aren't working, whether that's staff that, the business has outgrown. I think letting go has been, really hard. Not trying to do it all yourself.
And favourite business book which has helped you the most?
That would be Brené Brown's Dare to Lead. So
I'm a big fan of Brené. She's great. I loved her saying, "Clear is kind."
Yes. So she this one was on being vulnerable as a leader. But that also helped me really to share my story as part of who I am, and obviously as a business owner. And I was very much a private person, And then just obviously reading that too and realizing that my story can help so many other women. So even just being vulnerable, not just as a leader, but as a business owner as well. So I really, really got a lot from that one.
Yeah, good. Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
So I said I do listen to a lot of podcasts. One of them has been the Life Coach School podcast, which is Brooke Castillo, another American one. I did your digital coach bootcamp as well, which I really find helpful. So that really took me through the process again of defining my unique value, and again, who my customer is and how digital obviously fits into every single part of my business.
Great. One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Systems. So, and again, it's systems that work for your business, whichever they are, whichever systems they are, but definitely the right kind of systems.
And finally, my favorite question, what would you do on day one of starting out?
Strap yourself in.
Yep.
It's going to be a hell of a roller coaster ride. Mm-hmm. The highs will have you screaming, and the lows at times will make you want to give up.
Yeah.
But always remember that you're still moving forwards to the next high, and hang in there.
Yep. Great advice. Yeah. Well, thanks for your time today, Gillian. I think the audience get a lot of value out of your journey and your story and what you've shared with us today. And congratulations on your success, not just the Telstra Business Awards, but the business in general. And the last 6 years, growth's phenomenal, doubling sales and staff. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries.
It has really given me time to reflect as well.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.